Whether you own your own property like a family farm or have modest assets, taking the right steps to create an estate plan is essential. A well-crafted plan protects your hard-earned assets for generations to come, and it gives your family peace of mind. Hi, I'm Tony St. James. Welcome to this month's edition of Rural America Live with AARP. You know, tonight we're talking about estate planning, why it's so important, and how to make it easier on you and your family. Now, our friends from AARP join us along with special guest estate planning expert Michael Wallen. They'll answer your questions tonight, share helpful tips for getting your affairs in order. Okay, our question of the month. What steps have you taken to ensure your legacy is protected and passed on the way you want? You know, AARP has a new giveaway this year. We're giving away a flip-top cooler to 5 lucky on-air callers. So pick up the phone now and join our conversation. We're wasting no time in taking your calls. Phone lines are open, so give us a call. 877-283-7570. Remember, you don't have to be a member of AARP. Don't have to be 50 or older to win. But as a reminder, you can win only once each calendar year. We want to let those who are winners tonight know AARP will call you back using the number you called from. And it won't be tonight, but they will give you a call in the next few days to confirm your mailing address. If you're a past winner and you haven't yet received your cooler, be sure to return their call and provide a shipping address. AARP pays all shipping costs. If you're not a lucky winner tonight, you can enter AARP's Second Chance Sweepstakes, aarp.org/AARP Live, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to enter. One cooler given away each month with the winner announced during next month's program. Rules apply. You can only win one time in a calendar year. We'll announce February's second chance winner later in the show, so stay tuned to see if you're the winner. Our phone lines are open. Give us a call tonight, 877-283-7570, and join the conversation. We're ready to take your calls. All right, joining me now, Greg Marshaldon, AARP Vermont State Director, and Sarah Jennings, Regional Vice President. Great to have you both back here. You know, we know that we should have an estate plan. That's one we just know, right? But I think too many people haven't gotten around to getting that done yet. So, Sarah, why is that so important?
Well, I mean, it's for a lot of different reasons, right? And if you think about it, like you said, not everybody wants to do this, but you really should do it to make sure that your wishes are followed when you're no longer around to tell people what you'd like to be done with all those assets you worked your entire life to build up. It's a gift to your family to let them know what you want and that they can make sure that they honor your wishes. You also can just protect your assets. That's sort of the basic, right? You want to make sure that it's there and it's given to the folks that you want it to have it. And then finally, it also, and unfortunately, we probably have all heard stories where, you know, if you don't make it clear what you want done with your stuff, it can really cause a lot of conflict within your family. So again, thinking about it as making sure it's done with your wishes, and it also does help cut down on some of that strife that can cause conflict within the family. So lots of reasons to do it, even though it might not be the most fun afternoon you're going to have.
Okay. So we can back some of this up with research, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So, Greg, AARP has some research. I've already looked at this, but I don't want to spoil it. So it's near universal agreement that, the need to have a will. Just half of adults age 50 and older actually have a will.
Right.
Why?
Well, what's interesting about the survey is nearly everyone, that's 93% of the people surveyed, so that's nearly everyone, think that it's important to have a legal document spelling out what they want, as they move, towards the end of their lives. It's a really important thing to have. So people recognize how important the value is. Unfortunately, only about 50% of those people actually have a will themselves. And estate planning, again, you'll see it up here. There's lots of procrastination. What people are telling us is, haven't gotten around to it. It's not worth it, which sort of means like, I don't maybe have enough assets to make this worth my time. They're unsure how to start, which we think is a big one. They don't really know who to go to, how to initiate the process, how to make it happen. They don't want to think about it. Lots of people don't want to think about this particular topic because it's sad and it can be difficult. And then others also believe they simply can't afford it. So what we're here to say is all of these things are true, but there's a lot of ways to get around them. And in the end, it's extremely important that you think about your estate and that you have these conversations with your family and that you put together a will, because the result of not having these sorts of things can be a really, really significant problem on the back end.
That's right. Okay, I'll admit it. My wife and I, we had a will drawn up years ago when the kids were young.
Sure.
The idea is, let's get this done. We had a good attorney friend who got in. We drew that up. It's on a floppy disk drive. So I just used that.
It's time to review it, Tony.
Yeah,
come on now.
You might have a will,
Yes.
but why should we be paying attention tonight to maybe something that I did 25 years ago?
I have to admit, we are in kind of the same situation.
Are we?
The kids are probably old enough; they don't need to know who's going to take them anymore. So,
Right.
but it is. There's lots of different reasons why you should revisit your will. So it's great that you got it done, but you can't just set it and forget it. There's things that happen in life that sort of force you to take a hard look at it again. The first is, as we were just talking, like if you got married, divorced, maybe had another child, different things that happen with your life. Maybe your beneficiary, one of them has had a major life change. Maybe they've gotten married or that sort of thing. So you just have to, every time something happens, think about how that's going to affect what you already have written down. If you move to a different state or even a different country, all the laws are different depending on where you're at. So again, another reason why you've got to look at it. You might have had a change in your assets. Maybe you won the lottery. Maybe you bought a new property. Any of those sorts of things, that's another reason to go back in there and take a look at it. You also might change your mind. You might have kind of forgotten who you left all your stuff to, or there might have been a piece of property that you've decided you want to do something different with. There's lots of things that you should kind of make sure that where you were 20 years ago, you're still at today. And again, as we were talking about, if it's been more than 5 years, which I think for both you and I it has been, so we'll admit that.
Me too.
And you too, yeah.
Me too.
So it's just time for us all to practice what we preach here and go back and review it, which I will do.
Yeah.
Will you do it?
I'm going to.
Okay.
Preparing for the show was a real reminder.
Right.
But
You
one
gotta
of the things
do that.
Sarah said, I think the way you can look at this is like, when there's a change, a significant life change, that's a really good time to go back and take a look.
Yep.
I mean, after all, don't we stop and think, oh, the time has changed. We need to change the batteries in
Absolutely.
Right.
smoke alarm,
Absolutely.
right?
It's very
Absolutely.
similar to that.
So this is a big
Maybe
deal.
not every time the time changes, but again, do it on a regular basis,
right.
Right.
Okay, so you can tell we've got great information here and more tips to come with our estate planning expert who will answer your calls and questions. Now, we want you to join the conversation. Do you have an estate plan or a will? If not, why? Give us a call, 877-283-7570. And we have some flip-top coolers to give away to 5 lucky callers. All right, we'll be right back to 5 lucky callers, 877-283-7570. Welcome back to Rural America Live with AARP. Our show tonight, how to keep the family farm in the family. Estate planning and wills. So do you have a will or estate plan? If not, why? Or maybe you have a story to share about your own estate planning problems or successes. We want to hear from you. AARP has a flip-top cooler to give away to 5 lucky on-air callers. You could be a winner tonight. Give us a call, 877-283-7570, 877-283-7570. Now, if you're not a lucky winner tonight, you can enter AARP Second Chance Sweepstakes at aarp.org/AARP Live, or scan the QR code on your screen to enter. 1 cooler given away each month with the winner announced during next month's program. All right, we'll announce last month's winner a little later in the show. Right now, I'm here with AARP Vermont State Director Greg Marchaldon, AARP Vice President Sarah Jennings, and our special guest tonight, Certified Financial Planner Michael Wallen. You hear the applause from
Back
the
for more.
crowd? Yeah.
Back for more.
I'll applaud because we're going to learn some stuff from Michael tonight. I know that.
Every year we do.
Yep.
There's always great questions.
Yeah.
Well, this is a popular topic, and we should all know that we should have a will, right? But many of us are really not sure what that actually means. So help us understand what makes up a good estate plan.
Well, very simply, if we boil it down, it needs to be effective, it needs to be efficient, and it also needs to be funded. Because that's one of the number one issues that happens in estate planning is individuals go through the process of having the legal document set up, but then they never retitle the assets over to the document, and then when they pass, it's for naught. So it's very important that we make sure that we get the funding done, mostly when you're dealing with trust, different types of trust.
All right, we've got phone lines open right now at 877-283-7570, and that's where we'll find Alabama's Henry. Henry, by the way, thanks for calling. You're a winner tonight. What do you have for us?
Do I have to have a will notarized?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
good
great question. Yes, if there's two ways. If you do go visit with an attorney, that attorney is going to go through the proper processes of setting up the will and then making sure that it's properly notarized and that it's legal for the state. If you're doing a holographic will, then you're going to need to have at least two individuals that are non-family members to sign off on that documentation. But every state's a little bit different. So, as I'm giving you this answer, I always say check with your state just to make sure. Legal documents have gotten so much more cost efficient today. Visit with an attorney. Really sit down with a person that's an expert in this field and let them help you get it properly set up. But yes, it does need to be notarized so that it can go through the probate process effectively.
All right, calls tonight at 877-283-7570. Arkansas, where we're going now, Weldon. Hey, Weldon, what do you have for us tonight?
My question was, I wanted a ballpark figure of what the cost might be in setting up a sizable estate. I know that we've got our trust and we have to change all of the deeds over and all of that kind of stuff. So do you have an answer for a ballpark figure?
Yeah, it's a great question. When you start looking at estates, you could go into closely held businesses, or it could just be personal assets. Really, it's going to be determined on the area in which you live. If we were in Philadelphia, I'd probably say you could be looking at $10,000. If you're looking in Selma, Alabama, or a smaller area, you may be looking at $2,000. It's a vast difference based upon the amount of assets that is either going into the trust, how it's structured. A lot of times you have springing powers. You may have a situation where you have a beneficiary that may be special needs. There's a lot of variety that goes into it. So really the expense of it is, it could be anywhere from a free service of getting a will done through AARP or other services, all the way up to having a full-blown estate built, and those could cost you $10,000 or $20,000.
There you go. That's how easy it is. You give us a call, we've got the answers, right?
Yes.
So far.
And we'll see if we can stump somebody here tonight. 877-283-7570. Let's go to New York. And Amy's on the line. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
What do you have for us tonight?
I want to know if there's some way that I can leave my house to my son without him having to pay a lot of taxes for it.
Great
Great question.
Yeah.
The way you do that is through legal documents. I would caution anybody to ever leave a home to their children while they're living, because when you do that, you actually transfer your cost basis to them while they're living, which means they're going to miss on the step up in basis. So you always want to transfer your home. I'd say always, in 99% of the cases, you want to transfer your home at your death so your children get a step up in basis. It's going to save them potentially tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital gains taxes.
Okay, by the way, Amy, you're a winner, so thanks for calling. We've got more to give away as well.
Good question, too.
877-283-7570. I'm just kind of curious here. What common mistakes do we make when creating an estate plan?
That's another great question right there. Well, I think the biggest one is not getting started. The other one is not actually sitting down with family members and finding out what's important to them. You need to decide where you want your assets to go. Spending the quality time. I saw a research a couple of years ago. It says we spend more time on planning a vacation than we do planning our estate.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is procrastination. You really need to sit down, identify it. If you're one of those people that doesn't mind the state making all the decisions for you, it's really not an issue. But if you really want to make sure all those assets that it took you a lifetime to build, as you said earlier, Sarah, if it's important to you, sit down and identify whom you want it to go to and spend that, hour, 2 hours and write it out and visit with an attorney and get your legal documents done.
All right. You want to go to the phones?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Always.
Okay, we're headed over to West Virginia. That's where Mike is. Mike, what do you have for us tonight?
Good morning, or good evening, everybody. I think my original question had already been touched on, but I was wondering, if you don't want to spend thousands of dollars upon a will, is it possible to write up a document yourself and just have it notarized, and that would be legal and sufficient to follow through with everything that you wished for?
Yeah, that's called an holographic will, and check with your state. But most states require 2 individuals that are non-family members to witness your signature on that document, and then it would be legal and binding in your state.
So, okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about some common mistakes that we make when we're creating an estate plan, but what about the assets? And we've touched on the home side, for the stepped up basis, but what assets should we avoid leaving to our kids?
I think as Michael talked about, you want to make sure that stuff that you're leaving, like a house or like a business, you really had the conversation to be sure that where you're leaving to wants it. I think especially with a business, to make sure that that's part of their life plan is to take over that business, which oftentimes has so much emotion wrapped up within it as well. But you want to make sure that you're giving it to somebody who's ready to take it over. Another one is timeshares. We've had this great time going to your timeshare condo and you're going to give it over, but it's often hard. There's a lot of fees in there, and it's to get out of it's hard. So again, you just want to make sure you've had the conversation and that your kids or whomever you're going to give that to really want that. And the last is a storage unit. That's another one to think about. Making sure that you've cleaned out all of your various areas, your storage unit, so that, again, whomever you're leaving things to don't have to go through that and make decisions for you. Any other ones, Michael?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of gets into the financial planning side of it too, but sitting down with their financial planner in their area, as well as working with their attorneys, qualified retirement plans and IRAs are not the most efficient. As we talked about earlier, when you're really putting your estate together, you want to be effective and efficient. And maybe addressing some of those IRAs or qualified plans and working on getting those assets moved over into a Roth IRA or moved over that where some of those assets may be gifted while you're living, might reduce down a huge tax tsunami for your children in the future.
All right. 877-283-7570. That's our number tonight. We'd love to hear from you, like Alicia from California. What do you have for us tonight?
Oh, hi. Good evening. I wanted to know, what are the pros and cons of having a fiduciary trustee or executor, someone who's not a family member, manage your trust?
That can be a great recommendation. It can be very beneficial to your family simply because you keep away sibling rivalry. If you have children, or you also want it to be somebody who is knowledgeable in the estate planning, in the distribution of those assets, that understands current law. When a loved one passes, there's a grieving process that happens.
That's right.
And when that grieving process happens, it's not always fair to also, ask them to serve as that executive. And so I think that having a fiduciary representative in that way can be very helpful in distributing the estate and creating and keeping harmony with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of thinking back to this idea of not getting a will. I did one 25 years ago. I think was our first one that we did, and I mentioned it on a floppy disk drive. But at that time, I could not see how my family would need a will anytime in the foreseeable future. So I guess that's one of my questions back out to y'all is, we've seen it happen, haven't we? Instances where somebody did not have a will and something unexpected happened. I'm just going to throw that out there, but we can't wait till we need the will, can we?
No, I mean, that's the point. I mean, that's certainly what Michael is talking about tonight, is that you can't wait, and the unexpected does happen, unfortunately. And if you have not engaged in this process, as Michael said, you're leaving it all up to somebody else to make those decisions, and the costs associated with that for your children or others in your family can be enormous. I mean, I'd be interested, Michael, as I was preparing for this show, a couple of friends of mine, they were asking me about these online services now where you can create.
Sure. So
I was just wondering what you thought about them, because they certainly are advertising them a lot. They seem to be out there. If you have a sense of their efficiency and effectiveness.
Well, I think that they're better than the alternative of doing nothing.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
So, but again, it's also, if you're using technology, it's how good is the information you're putting in. Because garbage in is garbage out.
Right.
Which may be the difference of working with an attorney, but there is some very effective technology that is out there that helps people get the basic plans that are put in place. And for some people, that's 100% of what they do or need. We see that every day, or in tax season. There's several tax programs that are out there today that is very effective and efficient for a portion of our society. There's others that really need to sit with a CPA and get their taxes done. And I would say, Greg, it's the same thing as we're dealing with on estate planning. Some people's estate may be small enough that the technology works. Others really need to sit down with an attorney because really, to what we were talking about, there's 4 Ds that happen. You got death, you got disability, you got divorce, and now you have disease, which is really that 4th D after COVID.
Yeah.
And when do you need it? You need it before any of those events happen.
That's right. Right.
All right. 877-283-7570. 877-283-7570. Let's go back to the phones, and we're headed to Texas. Hi, Karen. And by the way, Karen, congratulations. You're a winner tonight. What do you have for us?
Oh, thank you. My question is, how do you locate a reputable attorney that is knowledgeable in ranch, agriculture, mineral interest, and stuff to help you plan your estate?
We're getting a lot of good questions tonight.
Yeah.
One of the ways you could do it, you can call the Texas Bar Association. You know, those are, all of the attorneys that specialize in an area, they'll be through whatever the State Bar Association. You can reach out to them. Other individuals, the Financial Planning Association that is in your local area oftentimes has a network of professionals that I know for us, so I think that's a good place. Sarah, would we have anything through AARP that we'd want to do?
No, I think we would echo the idea about looking and doing your research and looking at the Financial Planning Association, looking to see if they're, that kind of the fiduciary responsibility too, because you want to look out for someone who's not maybe making money off of commission, but is actually looking out for your best interest and is going to make the investment decisions that are, kind of that make the most sense for you. But it is this kind of doing the research, looking at what you have in your state and going from there.
Okay, I'm just thinking out loud here. Sentimental things around, around the house, and both of my parents are still alive, and I know that there are some sentimental things that that they've identified, and the kids have said, I'll want this, but how do we make sure those sentimental things are distributed the way we want or others want?
Well, and that's a personal situation, but a lot of times what we find is as people age, they start want to liquidate while they're living, and they may have loved ones that come to visit, and those may be lifetime gifts that they give to individuals because it's something special to them. Oftentimes you'll see, maybe it was a gift that was given by a family member, and then it's regifted back to them. The key thing is, I probably wouldn't want to be in my latter years and get found out on a hoarding show, so, maybe liquidating. So I think that might be an opportunity.
Yeah.
And we do have a few resources at AARP that people can get to, through our website. We have a personal estate planning kits, which people can use, and something that we call the 8 common mistakes that people make during estate planning. So basic information that we encourage people to come look at, read thoroughly. But these are the kind of things you'd want to do in advance of sitting down, with an expert, like Michael and, his colleagues around the country. And just one more thing on what Sarah said about fiduciaries, like, you want to make sure you're working with people that have your interests at heart, and the way that they're being compensated is a way that is fair to you and not something that will end up, where you end up paying way more than you need to.
We're going coast to coast tonight because this is something that affects everybody, right?
Yeah.
Nobody gets out of this game without addressing this.
Not this one.
From New York to Washington State, Amelia. Hi, Amelia. What do you have for us?
Hello. Good evening. I do have a will. It cost me probably like $200 a couple of years ago. And you mentioned that we need to check. It could be different for each state. But my question is, where exactly should I check? Maybe Washington Bar Association? That's one question. And my second question is, I have a prenuptial agreement, and it's also being done by lawyer, but it's also sitting on my desk, on my shelf. Do I have to officially file it somewhere? It's incorporated in my will as well. So those are my questions.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a great question. With prenuptial agreements, oftentimes there's a duration on those. And so, those are pretty set the way they are until that time has expired. But when you're dealing with a will, as Sarah said earlier, you really need to be looking at that will anytime that you have a life event, a marriage, a divorce, relocation, children, death in the family, things that are big events. You always want to be looking and making sure those legal documents are aligning currently with where you are in your life.
And she asked about where does she do the research? Is that kind of the Bar Association?
Oh, yes.
It's probably the best way to kind of go find the rules within your state.
I would go back to the attorney that originally wrote up the documents. That would be my first place. I mean, you've already paid that individual to create the documents for you. He's familiar with it or she's familiar with it. I would just go back. That would be my first starting point. And if they're no longer working in that role, then you could go to the estate, the Bar Association, and find an estate planning attorney that would be able to assist you.
Got it.
I kind of come back again using my own personal ideas here. After we have had our wills updated, where do we need to keep these? Where, because I hear that from time to time. We know there's a will, we just haven't been able to locate it yet. So is there a good place to put it behind the picture, over the couch, What do we do?
Tony. A floppy disk is not the place. But I would say that you need to have it in a storage, a place that where fire's not going to get to it, water's not going to get to it, bugs aren't going to get to it. If it's been 25 years since you've taken a look at it, a lot of people keep them in safety deposit boxes. Okay. The issue is the only way you get access to it is if the bank is open. So it might not be the most accessible. In the cloud, where we are today in technology, simply uploading it and making sure that your loved ones have access to that cloud base and go to that folder and be able to retrieve it, because you can store something in the cloud and send out the link to it. They have access to it 24/7.
And here's another benefit from working with an estate planning with a lawyer is that the lawyer will also have a copy of that as well. So you have that, when you're doing it, if you're doing it yourself, like someone suggested earlier, which is certainly a way to go. If it's not in a fireproof, waterproof lockbox, or you forget it, or you like you said, you hit it in the couch and you forgot where it is, and nobody finds it, you got a real problem on your hands.
Greg, you brought up a great point there. Think about somebody that did a will 25 years before. No one knows about it. The kids are grown up now. Nobody knows about it. And all of a sudden it's time for it. They settle the estate, and a month later they're cleaning everything out and they find the will.
Right.
Now, how do you undo that?
Right.
Is that where the toothpaste is out of the tube?
Yes.
And you can't get it back in?
Exactly.
Way out of the tube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the phone lines again. By the way, it's 877-283-7570. 877-283-7570. Let's go to another caller, and this one is Mike. And Mike, what question do you have for us tonight?
Thank you for having this program this evening. My question involves my estate plan has a trust. When I pass away, what is the process for dismantling the trust and then distributing the assets to the beneficiaries that I have named?
Yeah, that's the probate process. And so probate is the process of validating a will. And so when you pass away, someone in that will should be named as your executor. And then they would actually go down to the probate court in the area in which you live, and they would file that will with them. And then the probate judge is going to hold them accountable to the distribution of those assets as it's laid out in the will.
How long does that usually take?
Oh, Sarah, that's another one of those. Like, how much is it going to cost?
Okay.
It could, but there's a lot of probate cases that last years.
Right, but this gentleman has his estate in a trust, so it's laid out in a way where probate might not have to. I mean, the executor is still accountable for the distribution of. I was an executor for my aunt's will. We didn't have to go to probate. I just had to follow those directions. So, would you say that there's greater value in setting up some kind of a revocable trust as opposed to just sort of leaving it as a will when it will have to go to probate? And as you just said, who the heck knows how long that will take and how much that will cost?
Absolutely. Yeah. A will is great to identify what you want to have happen.
Right.
A trust is actually when you fund your assets into the ownership of the trust, And then that avoids probate and is distributed based upon what your wishes in that trust document.
And that can be distributed very quickly and very efficiently by the trustee.
Yeah.
Right.
A will is the welcome mat.
Right.
The trust is actually now taking the assets and then redistributing them based upon having trust beneficiaries.
It's the home, it's the art, it's the savings, it's all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, 877-283-7570. 877-283-7570. That's the number. Chris called from Pennsylvania. Chris, congratulations. You're also a winner. What do you have for us tonight?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, my question is, what role does life insurance play in the estate planning process, and who should own it? Should it be owned by a trust, or what are your thoughts on that?
Wow,
it's a great
good question.
Well, if you're going to do that, that's structured as an ILET. And what that does is it takes the life insurance death benefit out of your estate. And so if your life insurance is an incredible, to me, it's the most essential financial tool that's ever been created. It's probate free, it's tax free. It goes immediately to the beneficiaries of your choice. As long as divorce is not one of the situations that's happened in your life, and you really need to know the state in which you live. Oftentimes, you may have a beneficiary on a life insurance policy. You go through a divorce and it was your spouse. That state may nullify the beneficiary and make those assets actually go through the probate process. So it's very important that you work with a life insurance professional to make sure that it's properly set up, that your beneficiaries align. Every year when you're checking your will or your trust, you also need to be checking your beneficiaries on your life insurance policy. But life insurance is the cornerstone of every financial plan that we build at our practice.
Wow, this is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'd love for you to get involved. We're at 877-283-7570, 877-283-7570. You know, we have another cooler to give away and information about a free webinar that you can join to help get your financial matters in order. We'll talk about that when we come back on AARP. Welcome back. We still have a cooler to give away, and we'll get right to the phones. But as promised, how about we announce our second chance winner from February? That is from California. Is it you? It's Cliff. Hey, congratulations, Cliff, from California. Since you did provide your information when you scanned the QR code, your cooler is probably on its way. All right, now let's take a few more calls because we still have a few more coolers to give away. We're at 877-283-7570. It's 877-283-7570. Let's go to Florida. And Paul, yes, Paul in Florida. Okay, Paul, what do you have for us?
Yes, I'd like to know how you would leave live cattle to the people that, you know, if I was to pass away today, do I have to put that into a trust, or does that go into a will, or how's that work?
I would actually leave that through the form of a trust, so it can go to the beneficiary of your choosing. You also have the opportunity inside of that, Paul, that, you know, you can have a contingent beneficiary because, you know, you may put that in place today, but down the road, if an unfortunate event happened, you want to make sure that leaving cattle needs to go to someone who can actually take care of the cattle. So that's where I would say leave it through a trust and have a contingent beneficiary on it. And that also, you know, cattle is very similar to any other asset. Except that's an opportunity for that to be a closely held business because either you're selling it, either they're milking cows or they're meat cows. So you may also want to spell out in the trust how you want those items to be distributed or used in the future.
I want to throw out an idea here, and really, Paul, I think, opens the door for us to have the conversation about a business, whether that's a farm, a ranch, or whatever. We're selling gadgets or whatever. And you have children, more than one, maybe one's involved in the operation, the others aren't. Does that even highlight the need for estate planning even more? Because at some point, somebody's going to want something and they're not actively involved in that business. Has that ever happened? Is that worth talking about?
The earlier caller asked about life insurance. Life insurance is the great equalizer. Somebody wants the business, that's great. I will take out a life insurance policy that's pennies on the dollar, buy the policy, and make sure that the loved one that doesn't want to have anything to do with the closely held business receives an inheritance while I'm leaving to the farm or the estate or the other property to that loved one that has a desire for it. Life insurance is the great equalizer.
Pennies on the dollar?
Pennies on the dollar.
Okay. You know, we haven't been to Kentucky yet.
No.
How about we go to
get to go to
Kentucky?
Kentucky. Great.
I think Kentucky needs to have a winner tonight. Hi, Theodore. What do you have for us?
I am involved in several things, farms and horse operations, cattle operations, and I have 2 fine daughters, families, and 3 lawyers in the family. Everybody gets along and does a good job. I just want to make it sure it continues to do in the proper manner that my wife, who passed away a couple years ago, and I have run it. And they're family farms that won't be sold, but they will need to be. And we have good managers that are not family members, but are very interested in what we're doing and making sure it operates in an efficient manner. Now, that's a lot to throw on a table, but I just happened to catch your program a while ago, sitting here in the hospital, and I said, well, my family said, what was he watching that for? But I've gotten some good ideas, and we utilize a lot of the steps that you've already mentioned before. So just a general idea, you can ask me a question or two of what it is. One of the things is the thoroughbred horse business, which can be very volatile, but it can be very rewarding some days, and the next year it's not as rewarding. Cattle market is the same thing right now. And we used to raise tobacco all the time. We don't have that anymore. So farming has changed, but I want families to change with it. Yeah. That's.
Well, the wonderful thing is Theodore and his family has spent a lot of time talking about it,
absolutely,
having those discussions, and that's the reason why he has a sense of a peace of mind about him with where they are today, because it's not been a taboo conversation.
That's right. Yeah.
It's as you said earlier, it's the single most important thing, which is getting started. And you have to have that conversation with your family. And once that happens, having done that with my own parents, then things start to move and start to unstick a little bit. It's difficult to get started. We understand that, but that's the way this stuff starts to move. You have to have those difficult conversations, and then they become easier.
Right.
Well, to your point, Greg, when I'm talking with clients often, I tell them the difference between being out on a lake and being in white water. When you're out in the little canoe and you're out on the lake and everything's calm, you have no sense of urgency. Well, the difference is when that lake turns into white water and you fall out of the boat, you needed to have already had the life preserver on.
That's right.
So you just got to take time and get that in place, because tomorrow is uncertain. Mm-hmm. But what is certain is today, when you can take care of it.
Absolutely. And I also hope, Theodore, you get out of the hospital soon.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Get well soon.
Hopefully, guess.
All right, let's go to Indiana. Eugene is here. Hi, Eugene. What do you have for us tonight?
Good evening. Thank you for my call. My question is property that has been handed down for decades. How do you find out who has the mineral rights on the property?
Wow. Now, that's a great question. That's you're going to have to go back and look at the deeds and how those deeds transferred and know when the minerals were found. Eugene, I would find a good attorney in your area and let them start looking back through the deeds, looking at what's identified at the courthouse when the transferring of that property to be able to find out who the owner is. But that's going to take a little bit of forensic accounting by an attorney or their staff. So you really would need to reach out to them if it's something substantial that you'd want to get an answer on.
You know, we're running out of time. We still have time for your call, though. 877-283-7570. 877-283-7570. Let's go to Ohio and Maria. Hi, Maria. What do you have for us?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, my question is, we had created a will probably about 35 years ago, and I don't think I can find it. But if I do find it, is it still good, or should I just go and have another one created?
Well, Maria, has anything changed in the last 35 years in your life? That would be my first question. If so, it would probably take a visit. And if you haven't found it in 35 years and that attorney that drew it up may not be in practice anymore, I'd spend a couple of $100 and meet with a good attorney in your area and have a new will drawn up.
Yep. A quick thing to insert here. We've got a will. We did it, and it's not on a floppy drive or whatever, on a cassette tape, but it's actually a printed copy, but we want to make changes. Can we make changes to that will? And if so, what needs to happen?
Well, if you want an amended will, then I would go back to the attorney that drew up the original document, have them amend it, properly file it, and have it in place for you.
Okay.
You can't just get out your Sharpie.
Okay. Let's go to Vermont. And Peter's on the line. Hi, Peter. What do you have for us?
Yes, I've got a question to this. My folks wrote a will probably like 15 years ago here in Vermont. And then they moved to Canada. And probably 6-7 years ago, they wrote a will up there. Now, does both wills, or be the last will that was done in Canada, be the legal one?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, you need to look at the language of it, because the attorney that wrote the second will may not have been knowledgeable of the first will and may not have put the proper language in there stating that this is the last and current will and supersedes any previous wills. So it wouldn't be right of me to say a blanket yes. Probably in most cases it is, but I would definitely want to take a look at the second will and make sure that there is proper language in there that supersedes.
All right. There's so much in here. I haven't even thought about so many of these things, but Greg, there are resources available, right? Online. Can we find those through AARP?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there are resources. I talked about a few of those earlier. And we're a good place to start. We're a wealth of information about sort of how to get moving on this stuff. But I think, we've heard Michael tonight. We've heard a lot of your callers tonight. I think one of the things, we've had such good questions. One of the things that's really been clear to me is that, you don't want to write this down on a cue card or a napkin and then just sort of cross your fingers and hope for the best. That's why there are people that have real expertise in this. It can really help you. I would also tell people, if you're concerned about the money or what it will cost to do this, there are area agencies on aging all across the country, and a lot of those area agencies on aging, or they're called AAAs, have a legal services department where you can get at least a consult for practically free or a very small fee, and that can at least get you, established. But one of the things I've certainly heard tonight is that if you leave this up to, up to luck, it's probably not going to go well for you.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so I want you all to think about this, just some final thoughts. And Greg, I hope those weren't your final thoughts, but what do you think we need to remember as we leave tonight?
Well, we certainly want people to know that it is tax season right now, and AARP's tax aid program, which has been in existence for, I don't know, Sarah, 30, 40 years now, processes hundreds of thousands of people's taxes for free in church basements and grange halls and farms all across the country. If you have a simple tax return, which many people do, you can give your AARP state office a call. They can tell you where a location is. We highly, this is a program we're really, really proud of, and one that's run by our volunteers. It's been effective for many years.
Volunteers preparing tax returns for free all over the country.
Yeah,
it's a pretty amazing program. So
all right, Sarah.
Yeah. Yes, I wanted to share that we do have, you kind of teased it earlier, that we have a free webinar coming up that anybody can register for to sort of get you started on some of this financial planning if you feel stuck or want to get a little bit more information. And you're seeing the information on your screen, 5 tips to help you get your financial matters in order. And you can see again the timing there, March 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. And you can go ahead and register. There's a link to make sure that you get all this information, and you get the link to join that webinar at aarp.org/AARP Live. And that's where lots of information from tonight's show is at that website. So if you're comfortable getting on the web, on the internet, go ahead and go to that site and check out all the stuff we have there. And please register for this free webinar.
Oh, and I think something else we have to throw in. I'm not 50 yet.
If we'll still let you join.
Tony, we don't care. You can still come to the webinar.
I'm over 50.
Bring your floppy disk and everything will be all right.
Okay, Michael, final thoughts.
The final thoughts are, everybody has a plan. You're either going to die with a plan that you want, that distributes the assets the way you want them done, that's through a will or a trust, or you're going to die intestate, which means the state is going to distribute your assets for you. You have to choose which one of those fits your desires better.
All right. We've, again, covered so much ground along the way.
Such great questions.
And again, where can we find more information about AARP?
AARP.org/AARP Live. Lots of information on there about tonight's topic, and again, a way to get to that webinar. And you see you see it right there on your screen. So write that down, or just remember, because we've said it a lot tonight.
I'm just looking at the callers we've had: Henry and Weldon and Amy and Mike and Alicia and Karen, Amelia, Mike, Chris, Paul, Theodore, Eugene, Maria, and Peter. And those are the only ones that we got to tonight. Right. We had so many other callers, so we hope that you'll come back and join us next month, April 21st. And it's experts with AARP's Fraud Watch Network. Yep, we're sharing tips to fight cybercrime.
It's very important.
And those criminals are getting smarter by the day, so this will be a really good one to tune into. And our May show, I believe, is about decluttering. So if you've got one of those storage units I referenced earlier that you need to go take care of it, you might want to tune into the May show and get some of our decluttering tips.
Look at her plugging May already.
I know.
By the way, we had a little conversation on this earlier.
Yes.
I better be here for the one in May. Anyway, we'll get your questions coming up next month. I'm Tony St. James. Good night.